In a time when knowledge appeared as a torch in deep darkness, the Gnostic Gospels emerged like unexpected lightning, revelations that disrupted what was considered spiritual truth. These writings echoed an ancient, mysterious call, offering a different vision of the divine and the soul's purpose. But something within these pages disturbed, something in their words stirred both fascination and fear. What was it in these teachings that made them seem dangerous, suppressed, hidden, and labeled as heresy? Within their words lies a knowledge that transcends the visible, a call that invites the seeker to look beyond materiality, rigid beliefs, and venture into the unknown of the spirit. Religious and cultural authorities feared what this new vision could ignite, for it provided individuals with a key to self-knowledge and spiritual empowerment, a power not granted externally but found at the center of one's being. Between the lines of these hidden texts, we find a wisdom that doesn't propose to be taught or followed but to be lived, experienced like a flame that illuminates the darkness within. Gnosticism, as a spiritual tradition, advocated for a personal, non-transferable quest, a journey inward, where the truth of the divine and the purpose of life are not discovered in others' words but in the depths of one's own consciousness. This knowledge, Gnosis, is a mystical experience, a fusion of the seeker with the divine essence present in all things, including oneself. For the Gnostics, Gnosis was an awakening of a vision that transcends veils of illusion, breaking the chains of materialism and attachment to the external world. At the heart of these Gnostic Gospels is an invitation for those who dare to question, who aren't afraid to look beyond the masks and illustrations of the visible world. There's a voice whispering to each soul that it is part of the whole, a divine spark seeking to return to its origin. The Gnostic path, therefore, is a path of revelation, but not an imposed revelation. It unfolds as the seeker delves deeper within. The answers aren't given. They are discovered in the whisper of intuition, in the clarity of spiritual awakening. Perhaps the power of their message lies precisely in the freedom it offers, in the vision that ultimate truth isn't the privilege of a select few or an institution but of each being who chooses to know it in their heart. This is why Gnosticism became a threat to those who sought to centralize spiritual power, as it taught that the divine temple resides within each person and that communion with the divine is possible without intermediaries. These mysterious writings then were seen as a dangerous spark, a door that could open minds to a world of questioning and spirituality free from fear and submission. But by suppressing these texts, their detractors only intensified their hidden power, turning them into relics veiled in the unknown and forbidden. The mystery of the Gnostic Gospels still pulses, inviting the courageous to seek answers not in books or external voices but in the vast silence of their own spirit. These texts don't demand followers, they awaken seekers. And for those who dare to decipher them, the reward isn't common knowledge but a wisdom that unveils layers of the self, that transforms, and that leads to a reunion with the divine essence. In a world immersed in an endless pursuit of external answers and solutions, Gnostic teachings emerge as an oasis of depth and self-knowledge, offering a call to return to the essential. Centuries after they were written, these ancient texts resonate with the questions and inner turmoil of modern humans, who often find emptiness behind a purely material existence. Gnosticism, with its vision of transcendence and inner awakening, speaks directly to the heart of those who feel that life's meaning isn't exhausted by tangible achievements and possessions. Like in antiquity, Gnosticism reminds us that true wealth lies in the discovery of our essence, not in the accumulation of what is perishable. Gnostics viewed self-knowledge as a sacred journey, a path that reveals the deepest truths about life's purpose and the universe that surrounds us. In today's context, where many seek practices and philosophies that go beyond appearances, Gnosticism offers an approach that speaks to the soul, proposing wisdom that challenges conventional paradigms and aligns with the longing for authenticity and transcendence. Gnostic philosophy reminds us that self-knowledge isn't a distant or unattainable concept but a constant invitation to perceive the invisible and eternal dwelling within. It inspires us to look beyond the masks we wear and the distractions surrounding us, guiding us back to the center, to the core of our spiritual essence. The relevance of these teachings lies precisely in their capacity to offer a path of discovery that demands neither followers nor dogma but fosters the awakening of the seeker within each of us. In times when people crave spiritual practices that speak to the heart and soul, Gnostic ideas gain strength and relevance, resonating with teachings from both ancient and modern traditions. Like Buddhism and Hinduism, Gnosticism suggests that human suffering results from identifying with the transient, with the illusory. It shows us that by detaching from the chains binding us to the external world, we reach an inner freedom that brings us closer to divine truth, enabling us to experience life with a new and deeper perspective. In today's world, Gnosticism's proposal of a transcendent purpose echoes among those searching for meaning amid chaos and superficiality. It invites us to reevaluate our relationship with the world, to understand that personal fulfillment is found less in what we accumulate and more in the wisdom and peace we cultivate. Like a mirror reflecting the divine within each being, Gnosticism reminds the seeker that true happiness arises when the soul frees itself from surrounding illusions and returns to its natural state of light and understanding. Thus, Gnostic teachings don't belong to the past. They live in the heart of every seeker yearning for truth, unafraid to challenge the superficial and willing to see beyond the veils of illusion. These ideas continue to inspire and awaken the human spirit, guiding us beyond the familiar, into the unknown realm of self-knowledge and spiritual peace. The Gnostic journey is therefore a timeless path, a map for those who seek freedom of spirit and the truth shining beyond the world's shadows. For Gnosticism, the material world is a web of illusions, a maze of attachments and desires where the soul becomes lost and imprisoned, forgetting its true nature. Gnostics saw the physical world as an imperfect creation, a place where suffering and chaos seem to govern human experience. In their view, materialism and attachment to this dense reality are but traps that divert the soul from its essential purpose and distance it from spiritual awakening. The idea of the material world as a spiritual prison becomes, in Gnosticism, a powerful metaphor that questions the conventions feeding fear, greed, vanity, and an insatiable search for external satisfaction. For Gnosticism, every earthly desire, every thirst for control and power, feeds a chain of illusions, upholding the veil that hides the divine essence and turning humans into prisoners of their own creations. Gnostics perceive that this world, with all its fleeting pleasures and empty concerns, keeps the soul in a cycle of repetition, of emptiness and of self-forgetfulness. Thus, suffering arises from the soul's estrangement from its essence. The more we surrender to illusions and ceaselessly seek the external and temporary, the farther we drift from our center, from the peace and unity intrinsic to the spirit. Gnosticism teaches that attachment to the material doesn't grant security. On the contrary, it confines us to a state of lack, where we're never able to satisfy the soul's needs, which are infinite and divine. Awakening from this illusory state requires detachment, a practice that, for Gnostics, was more than renouncing the world, it was an inner liberation. Detachment is an attitude of profound discernment, a clarity that emerges when we realize that true value lies not in what we possess but in the freedom and peace we achieve. By practicing detachment, the soul distances itself from the chains of materialism and draws nearer to essential wisdom, to a divine connection that demands nothing but offers everything. For those who seek to follow this path, Gnosticism offers introspective practices to help dissolve the illusion of attachment. Meditating on matter's impermanence, observing thoughts without identifying with them, and cultivating gratitude for the simple and eternal are ways to return to the center. Thus, detachment doesn't mean abandoning all that is physical but rediscovering a freedom that isn't bound by desire. When the soul finally frees itself from the bonds of the material world, it finds true peace, a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances or objects but that blooms from recognizing the divine essence. In this state, the seeker becomes free, finding in the material world a space for experience, not for confinement. By seeing reality as a reflection, not a prison, the awakened spirit ascends, guided by the light of Gnosis and the certainty that its destiny lies beyond, in the eternity of the immutable and pure. At the heart of the Gnostic Gospels, the enigmatic figure of Sophia emerges, a symbol of divine wisdom and the sacred feminine. She is not merely an archetype. Sophia is a living presence, an expression of the feminine aspect of the divine that, while inhabiting the invisible, resonates within the depths of the human soul. For the Gnostics, Sophia represents wisdom that isn't learned in books but that springs from a deep, mysterious place, from silence that holds the answers to the most sublime and eternal questions. She embodies the light that awakens the dormant spirit, inviting it to remember its origin and essence. In Gnostic tradition, Sophia is the bridge between the material and the spiritual worlds, a figure reflecting both suffering and redemption. According to Gnostic myths, she, in an act of compassion and courage, descended into the material world, into the darkness of human existence, bringing with her the divine spark that would illuminate the path back to the divine. Her fall is symbolic. It represents the soul's descent into illusion and forgetfulness, but also points to the potential for elevation and reconnection with the Supreme Source. Sophia is, therefore, the hidden light within each of us, the flame that insists on shining even in the depths of darkness. This feminine wisdom is what guides the soul on its journey back home, back to unity with the divine. In Gnosticism, the feminine is not just a quality but an essential force for spiritual balance and wholeness. Sophia embodies compassionate and transformative wisdom, an understanding that transcends reason and gently embraces the complexities of human experience. The divine feminine, as represented by Sophia, reminds us of the importance of receptivity, intuition, and healing as vital parts of the spiritual path. She teaches that the Gnostic journey is not a steep, rigid ascent but a path that involves listening to the inner voice, recognizing vulnerability, and embracing compassion as a source of transformation. For Gnostics, Sophia's role also reveals the importance of integrating both feminine and masculine aspects on the spiritual journey. Sophia represents the harmony between knowing and feeling, between understanding and embracing. She invites the seeker to balance these aspects, to recognize that true wisdom is not harsh or unyielding but fluid and compassionate, a dance between reason and intuition. Encountering Sophia is a return to the essential, to what is sacred and immutable in the soul. The divine feminine, embodied by Sophia, awakens in the seeker a reminder that spirituality is not a solitary journey but one of integration. She teaches that spiritual awakening is not an escape from the world but a transformation of our relationship with it, where we begin to see everything and everyone as part of a divine whole. Sophia's role is to guide the soul back to the divine through wisdom and love, through surrender that doesn't reject the world but sees it with renewed vision, with a purified and elevated perspective. By connecting with Sophia's wisdom, we recognize the power of the divine feminine that lives within each being. This feminine quality is compassion, healing, and openness to truth, qualities that become essential in the process of spiritual elevation. Sophia reminds us that enlightenment is a path of return, a reminder that the wisdom we seek already dwells within us, waiting only for our consent to flourish. At the heart of Gnostic teachings beats a powerful and transformative idea. True wisdom doesn't come from the external world but from the profound, intimate knowledge that each soul can access within its own being. This inner knowledge, or Gnosis, is not about understanding what is taught in doctrines or schools. It is an understanding that flourishes from within, like a secret revealed by the soul in its purest state. For Gnostics, Gnosis is the discovery of truth that lies beyond words, beyond beliefs, and beyond systems that attempt to explain the unexplainable. The pursuit of Gnosis is essentially a journey of self-discovery, a descent into one's spirit to find what is eternal and divine within. In contrast to external knowledge, acquired, analyzed, classified, and accumulated, inner knowledge is lived, felt, and experienced at a deep level of consciousness. It requires no proof, for it is a truth that the soul itself recognizes, a memory that arises from the depths of being and becomes unquestionable for those who experience it. Gnosticism, with its emphasis on Gnosis, challenges the seeker to question what is imposed, what is taught from the outside, and to explore the answers that arise from silence, meditation, and direct connection with the divine. This inner knowledge is a form of truth that transcends dogmas and institutions, becoming a beacon of light for the seeking soul. In the Gnostic view, this deep knowing liberates the individual from the world's illusions and places them in contact with their divine essence, revealing that true wisdom is not something that can be taught but something that is lived. Gnosis also transcends reason, for within it, understanding is intuitive, as if it comes from an infinite source of wisdom that doesn't need logic to be true. By seeking this inner knowledge, the Gnostic frees themselves from the need for external validation and learns to trust their own perception, their own connection to the sacred. And the more the soul allows itself to experience this wisdom, the more it detaches from others' opinions and worldly judgments, understanding that the truth it seeks does not belong to the realm of what is spoken but to the realm of what is felt and understood in the silence of being. This distinction between external knowledge and inner knowing invites us to reflect on our own search for meaning and truth. In a world saturated with information, where external knowledge is celebrated and inner experience often neglected, the path of Gnosis emerges as a deeply transformative alternative. It reminds us that while we may learn and grow through books, words, and teachings, true awakening only occurs when we turn to our own spirit, to our own source of wisdom. By embracing the concept of Gnosis, the seeker begins to see the world from a new perspective, where every experience becomes an opportunity for knowledge and every challenge, a doorway to inner discovery. They understand that the quest for the divine is not a linear journey toward a final point but an infinite spiral of self-knowledge, where each layer reveals a deeper truth. This inner knowledge is a journey inward, a return to what is essential, and a revelation that the divine we seek already lives within us, awaiting only our awakening. In the Gnostic worldview, the material universe is the work of an imperfect entity, a creator known as the Demiurge. Unlike the supreme, transcendent God, the Demiurge is a deity who fashioned the material world out of ambition and separation, and the result of his creation is a world of limitations, illusions, and suffering. For Gnostics, this figure represents an imperfect architect whose work ensnares us in an illusory reality, diverting us from our true divine nature and understanding of what is eternal and true. The Demiurge is seen as a being who believes himself to be the only God, unaware of a higher and perfect principle. He creates the material world, shaping it with the dense energies of his own nature, and it is in this process that suffering, division, and conflict arise. His creation reflects his own limitations, for the world he builds is a mirror of his ego and his distorted vision of reality. For Gnostics, the evil and pain we experience are thus a direct result of this flawed creation and the Demiurge's imperfect nature. This figure does not represent absolute evil but rather a deviation from the original light, a being who, acting out of ignorance and separation, creates a universe that imprisons souls in a cycle of illusion and forgetfulness. In Gnostic tradition, the true God is pure and transcendent, uninvolved in material creation, remaining in the domain of perfect light and supreme unity. The Demiurge, on the other hand, is the ruler of this imperfect world, and his creation entraps souls in a web of desires and limitations, preventing them from seeing their own divinity. Gnostics viewed the material world as a series of dense layers that keep the soul in a state of forgetfulness but believed that this prison could be overcome. Evil, in this view, is understood not as an essential force but as an absence of understanding, an illusion that obscures the truth. It is the forgotten light, hidden behind the veil of ego, greed, and attachment, that imprisons the spirit in the Demiurge's realm. Through Gnosis, the direct, personal knowledge of the divine, the soul can transcend the Demiurge's influence and return to its origin, to the supreme source. On the Gnostic journey, overcoming evil and illusion involves practices and insights that lead to the soul's awakening. Recognizing the Demiurge's existence and the prison he represents is the first step in understanding that our true essence does not belong to this world but to what lies beyond. For Gnostics, awakening means realizing that we are beings of light, fragments of a supreme and perfect God, and that by awakening to this truth, we free ourselves from the illusions and limitations imposed by material creation. Thus, the question of evil becomes a matter of perspective and discernment. Suffering and challenges are seen as barriers created by the Demiurge to hinder our ascent, but they also serve as opportunities for learning, as tests that challenge our consciousness to rise and seek truth. By understanding the role of the Demiurge and the illusory nature of the material world, the Gnostic finds the strength to transcend challenges and connect with what is pure and eternal. The Gnostic path is, therefore, a journey out of the Demiurge's domain and into one's own essence, where the supreme divine dwells in silence. It is a quest for spiritual freedom, for understanding that we are more than the matter that surrounds us and that the evil we perceive is a shadow that dissipates as we draw closer to the light of our own truth. For the Gnostic seeker, Gnosis is more than an idea. It is a state of being, an awakening that transcends the intellect's limitations and penetrates the soul's depths. To attain this experience of union with the divine, Gnostics developed practices and rituals that help open the heart and mind to this inner truth. The path of Gnosis is then a spiritual journey nourished by sacred practices and self-exploration, a path that reveals, little by little, what is eternal and unchanging within each being. One of the central practices in Gnosticism is meditation. For Gnostics, meditation is a means of silencing the noise of the material world, transcending the thoughts and desires of the ego to connect with the peace that resides within. In the stillness of meditation, the soul can glimpse what lies beyond illusions, can perceive the vastness of consciousness, and feel the presence of the divine within itself. Meditative practice is thus a tool of transcendence, a space where the seeker disconnects from the world's bonds and enters into direct contact with their essence. Another important Gnostic practice is the use of mantras. Mantras are sacred sounds or words with specific frequencies that, when chanted, help elevate the practitioner's vibration, aligning them with higher energies. For Gnostics, the mantra is a key that unlocks doors to higher states of consciousness, a bridge between the material and spiritual worlds. The sound of the mantra dissolves densities and elevates the soul, guiding it out of the ego's labyrinth and toward the light of Gnosis. Rituals also hold a special place on the Gnostic path. These rituals are not mere formalities, they are symbolic acts that convey profound spiritual truths. By performing a ritual, the Gnostic is not merely repeating gestures but is aligning with an ancient tradition, connecting with the energy of those who sought the truth before them. Purification rituals, for example, represent the shedding of dense energies and illusions, a spiritual rebirth that prepares the soul for direct experience with the divine. Each action within the ritual is intentional, designed to open the heart, silence the mind, and strengthen the connection to the essence. The practice of self-knowledge is perhaps the most essential element on the Gnostic path. For Gnostics, each moment of introspection is an opportunity to look beyond masks, to examine hidden motivations, and to understand the patterns that bind us to the material world. This process of self-analysis is a journey of discovery and liberation, where the practitioner finds within the depths of their mind and soul the keys to awakening. Through self-knowledge, the seeker discovers true freedom. By understanding their own illusions, they become capable of transcending them and living in their pure essence. These Gnostic practices are both deeply spiritual and perfectly adaptable to modern life. Although they are ancient practices, they speak to a timeless human need to connect with something greater, to find meaning and purpose. The modern Gnostic can incorporate these practices into daily life, meditating in silence at dawn, repeating a mantra to strengthen the spirit amid daily challenges, or performing a small ritual of gratitude at dusk to honor the journey of self-discovery and reconnection. The path of Gnosis is thus a daily practice, a constant return to one's essence, a loving effort to remember the truth that transcends matter. And the more the seeker devotes themselves to these practices, the more they feel the presence of the divine within, the more they perceive the beauty and harmony residing within. This is the awakening of Gnosis, an experience found not outside but within, and once lived, it illuminates every aspect of existence. In Gnosticism, the soul is seen as an eternal traveler, a divine spark that passes through countless existences in search of a return to the divine. This cyclical journey, often interpreted as reincarnation, is understood by Gnostics not as a simple repetition but as a path of refinement, a series of cycles of learning and purification. In each life, the soul is invited to expand its consciousness, to break away from illusions that distance it from its essence, and to remember its divine nature. For Gnostics, reincarnation is a process that allows the soul to experience different aspects of existence, explore the depths of being, and rise beyond the limitations of matter. Life in the physical realm, with its challenges and contrasts, offers valuable opportunities for spiritual growth, allowing the soul to learn compassion, detachment, courage, and self-awareness. Each life, then, is like a chapter in the book of existence, where the soul experiences, learns, and gradually approaches an understanding of ultimate truth. The Gnostic view of reincarnation is, in a way, a vision of liberation. Gnostics believe that, over the course of its cycles, the soul acquires the wisdom necessary to transcend the cycle of reincarnations and achieve union with the divine. This final state is seen as a fusion with the supreme light, a return to the primordial source, where the soul is finally freed from the limitations and attachments of the material world. Reincarnation, then, is not an inevitable fate but a process that can be transcended through self-knowledge and Gnosis, when the soul reaches a level of elevation where the illusion of separation is fully dissolved. The soul's cyclical journey is also a reminder that time and space are illusions. The soul, being eternal and divine, is not confined to the boundaries of a single life. It transcends the barriers of mortality, and even after leaving the body, it continues its journey of self-discovery and enlightenment. This understanding broadens the perspective of the Gnostic seeker, allowing them to see beyond the boundaries of birth and death, and to comprehend that the true existence of the soul extends beyond the fleeting experiences of a single incarnation. In pursuit of Gnosis, the Gnostic understands that each life offers a unique opportunity for growth, an invitation to remember and return to essence. The experiences, lessons, and challenges of each incarnation serve as signs guiding the soul toward its true nature, and suffering as well as joy becomes a tool for self-knowledge and awakening. Reincarnation then is not seen as punishment but as a sacred journey, where each cycle brings us closer to the divine, teaches us to overcome illusions and live in harmony with our essence. This Gnostic concept of reincarnation resonates with other spiritual traditions, such as Hinduism and Buddhism, which also view rebirth as a stage in the evolution of consciousness. For the Gnostic, however, liberation from the wheel of reincarnations is possible through Gnosis, this direct and transformative knowledge that dissolves the world's illusions and awakens the soul to its divine nature. Thus, the cycle of reincarnation is a dance of experiences and learning, where the soul is called to rise and remember its true origin. The Gnostic path offers a map for this journey, a practice of self-knowledge, detachment, and connection with what is eternal. In each incarnation, the soul moves closer to freedom, and when it finally awakens to its own light, it is freed from the cycle, merging with divine totality and finding the peace that is the final destiny of all creation. Gnosticism is a tradition that, in its essence, shares much of its vision with other spiritual practices that also seek to transcend the illusion of the material world and reveal the true meaning of existence. Though they may differ in approach, philosophies like Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism share with Gnosticism the perception that material reality is only a superficial layer of a more vast, spiritual universe. These traditions converge on the idea that spiritual awakening is humanity's highest goal, achievable only through deep self-knowledge and the dissolution of the ego. In Hinduism, we find the notion of Maya, the illusion that covers the true nature of being, leading people to identify with the body and the material world instead of recognizing themselves as the divine essence, or Atman. Just as Gnosticism views the world as a spiritual prison created by the Demiurge, Hinduism sees the material as a veil to be overcome so that one may achieve union with the divine or moksha. In both paths, liberation is the ultimate goal, freedom of the soul from illusions that separate it from its true, divine, and eternal nature. Buddhism, in turn, offers a vision of enlightenment that also resonates with Gnostic teachings. The concept of samsara, the cycle of birth and death pervaded by suffering, is seen as a condition of the material world that must be transcended through the awakening of consciousness. For Buddhists, as for Gnostics, suffering arises from attachment and ignorance, and spiritual elevation is achieved by freeing oneself from desires and cultivating a deep understanding of the nature of self and the universe. The Buddhist practice of meditation and self-mastery finds resonance in Gnostic rituals and practices, which likewise seek direct knowledge of reality and transcendence of illusions. Taoism also shares parallels with Gnosticism in its perception of duality and the quest for harmony with the divine principle. For Taoists, the Tao is the unnameable essence that permeates everything, and the material world is seen as a temporary manifestation that only makes sense when in harmony with this greater principle. The pursuit of wu-wei or effortless action can be seen as an expression of the inner balance that Gnostics also seek, a state of detachment and serenity achieved when the soul recognizes its true nature and lives in harmony with the divine. Like these Eastern traditions, Gnosticism understands that the spiritual life is a journey of return, a quest to reconnect with the source, with the divine that transcends the physical. The difference is that, for Gnostics, this journey includes recognizing a figure like the Demiurge, an imperfect creator, while Eastern traditions tend to see illusion as a natural result of ignorance, without the need for a personification of error. Nonetheless, both Gnosticism and these traditions view self-knowledge and contemplative practice as essential bridges for the soul to achieve wisdom, love, and inner peace. These connections between Gnosticism and Eastern traditions show us that the search for the divine and for truth is a universal longing. Despite different forms and symbols, the essence of the spiritual path, the liberation from illusions, the transcendence of the ego, and union with the divine, is a common bond that unites all these traditions. In their diverse languages, they remind us that true wisdom is timeless and transcends cultural barriers, offering a universal path for all who wish to know themselves and return to what is eternal. Gnosticism, then, is not merely an isolated tradition but part of a vast tapestry of spiritual wisdom that spans cultures and eras. For the contemporary seeker, these bridges between traditions offer a broad and inclusive vision, an opportunity to learn and integrate teachings that, although varied in form, converge on the purpose of illuminating the soul's journey. The Gnostic Gospels, discovered mainly in the library of Nag Hammadi in Egypt, offer us a glimpse into a Christian spirituality that existed before the formalization and institutionalization of the Church. These texts, which include the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary, and the Gospel of Philip, present a vision of Christianity that values inner searching and gnosis, the direct and experiential knowledge of the divine, as the purest path to enlightenment. These Gnostic teachings challenge the literal and dogmatic interpretations that would later prevail, proposing that true spiritual experience transcends the boundaries of dogma and organized structures. In the early centuries of Christianity, Gnosticism offered an alternative vision that distanced itself from rigid authority and literal interpretations of Scripture. Gnostics believed that each individual carried a divine spark within and that the purpose of spiritual life was to awaken to this inner truth. Jesus, in the Gnostic view, was seen not only as a savior redeeming sins but as a teacher guiding humanity to recognize this divine light within each being. He was the bearer of Gnosis, someone who revealed the path to spiritual liberation, a guide showing the way to inner awakening. This interpretation contrasted strongly with the emerging Orthodox view, which emphasized obedience to divine laws and the need for priestly mediation to attain salvation. The Gnostic emphasis on direct knowledge of the divine threatened the hierarchical structures of the Church, for if each person could find the divine in their own heart, the role of ecclesiastical authority became secondary. To the Gnostics, the true temple was the heart, and communion with the divine was a direct and intimate experience that required no intermediaries. Over time, the Orthodox Church condemned Gnostic texts as heretical, and the Gnostic Gospels were suppressed and hidden, banned, and destroyed in many places. However, the power of their message endured through the centuries, attracting those who sought a deeper spiritual experience free from religious conventions. The Gnostic texts continue to resonate as a spiritual alternative that values freedom and self-discovery, offering a view of Jesus and his message as an invitation to self-knowledge, questioning, and personal search for truth. The significance of the Gnostic Gospels lies in their proposal of a mystical Christianity, a path that speaks directly to the soul and places the individual in direct contact with the divine mystery. These texts provide a perspective on Jesus and his teachings centered on the awakening of consciousness, the recognition of the divine within, and the perception that salvation is a process of revelation and self-discovery. For the early Gnostic Christians, Jesus was the symbol of what each of us can become by finding our inner light. Today, with the resurgence of interest in these texts, the Gnostic Gospels continue to inspire those seeking a Christianity that values the direct experience of the sacred and challenges literal interpretations. They remind us that at the heart of spirituality is the search for personal truth, the connection to the divine within each of us, and awakening to our own essence. Thus, these ancient texts become, once again, a source of wisdom, a bridge linking the past with the present, and inspiring the modern seeker to uncover the true meaning of the inner light. In the Gnostic texts, we find a profound and radiant idea that every human being carries within a divine spark, a particle of the eternal light that resides at the heart of the universe. This spark, for the Gnostics, is the essence of the soul, the divine fragment that remains pure and untouched, regardless of the limitations and illusions of the material world. This inner light is a constant invitation to spiritual awakening, a call to rediscover the truth obscured by the veil of illusions and distractions. Gnosticism tells us that the spiritual journey is, in truth, a process of remembering, of reconnecting with this divine spark, which is our true self. This awakening is the experience of Gnosis, a knowledge that transcends intellect and reveals the unity between the soul and the divine. When we recognize and experience this spark, we discover that, in our essence, we are an extension of the sacred, an expression of divinity that is not separate from us but forms and sustains us. The divine spark is what distinguishes us from the realms of illusion. Although the material world binds us with its web of desires and fears, this inner light remains, waiting for the seeker to look within and recognize their own divinity. For the Gnostics, suffering and attachment arise from forgetting this essential truth, and spiritual awakening is the process of removing the layers of illusion that obscure our true essence. It is like cleansing a mirror that, once purified, reflects the light of our own divinity. This awakening, however, requires courage and surrender, for the path of Gnosis is not just intellectual understanding but a profound transformation of being. Upon recognizing the divine spark, the Gnostic releases the limitations imposed by the ego and the false identities created by the material world. They begin to live in alignment with this higher essence, finding their true nature in peace and unconditional love. The experience of awakening is thus a liberation, a departure from the labyrinth of the ego into the vastness of spiritual consciousness. For those seeking this connection with the true self, Gnosticism offers practices to ignite this spark, such as meditation and the contemplation of the divine in all things. Each practice becomes a sacred act, an approach of the soul to its original state of purity and truth. By dedicating themselves to these practices, the Gnostic strengthens their connection with the divine, allowing this inner light to illuminate all aspects of life and reveal a truth that transcends the material world. The return to the true self is therefore the ultimate purpose of the Gnostic path. It is not a knowledge that needs to be acquired, but a memory to be lived, an awakening to the light that has always existed and will always exist. This recognition frees us, for in realizing that we are divine in our essence, fear and separation dissolve, and life becomes an expression of love and unity. The Gnostic spiritual journey is thus an act of return, a movement towards the source, where the soul finds peace and merges once more with the eternal. Recognizing the divine spark is acknowledging that we are part of the mystery, that we are a reflection of the sacred, and that the true meaning of existence is simply to be what we already are, a divine spark seeking reunion and awakening. In the Gnostic Gospels, we encounter universal archetypes that represent the internal forces and challenges of the spiritual journey. These archetypes are not merely historical or literary characters but living symbols of the aspects within us that conflict, rise, or betray their own essence in the quest for truth. Among the most emblematic are the Redeemer, the Betrayer, and the Seeker, figures that reflect different facets of the soul in its path of self-knowledge and spiritual ascension. The Redeemer is the archetype of the Master, the one who carries the light of Gnosis and awakens the dormant divine spark in others. He is the guide who offers the seeker a mirror to see their own divinity, a beacon that lights the way out of darkness and towards truth. In many Gnostic texts, Jesus is seen as this redeeming archetype, a teacher who not only instructs but reveals to the disciple that salvation and light already exist within them. The Redeemer does not provide ready answers but invites reflection, questioning, and the search for inner truth. He represents the enlightened aspect of consciousness, one that recognizes and expands the divine spark to illuminate the whole being. On the other hand, the Betrayer symbolizes the shadow side, the one who turns away from the light and denies their essence in exchange for the illusions of the material world. Judas, for example, often personifies this archetype in Gnostic texts. He represents the choices we make when we ignore our inner wisdom, succumbing to fear, ego, and attachment. The Betrayer reflects the parts of us that hesitate, sabotage, and doubt the truth residing in the heart. Yet, paradoxically, the Betrayer also teaches, for he reveals the importance of discernment, fidelity to the spiritual path, and the constant challenge of overcoming illusions that distance us from Gnosis. This archetype reminds us that shadows are also part of the journey, and facing them is essential for transformation. The Seeker, in turn, embodies the soul's relentless quest for meaning and truth. He is the archetype of every one of us, the traveler embarking on the discovery of the divine without guarantees, only a flame of curiosity and longing for truth. The Seeker is driven by intuition, by the deep call felt within, which compels them to question the material world and guides them towards spiritual awakening. He represents the spirit of inquiry and persistence, the will to break free from the shackles of ego and illusion. It is he who, facing the unknown and overcoming limitations, walks the path of Gnosis and returns to his center, recognizing the divine spark that has always existed within. Together, these Gnostic archetypes represent the inner aspects each seeker encounters on their journey. The Redeemer inspires us, the Betrayer challenges us, and the Seeker propels us toward awakening. All coexist within, mirroring our internal battles and spiritual aspirations. As we learn to recognize and integrate these facets, we find that each archetype teaches us something essential about our own nature. Gnosticism reminds us that these archetypes are not obstacles but allies in our quest for self-knowledge and elevation. Encountering the Redeemer reminds us of our own light, confronting the betrayer teaches us about our shadows, and following the path of the seeker, we rediscover our essential truth. This is the beauty of the Gnostic path. It invites us to embrace all aspects of being, to understand each archetype as part of the whole, and to allow, through this recognition, the soul to ascend toward its divine essence. Gnostic philosophy is, above all, a celebration of questioning, a path that encourages the seeker to challenge all imposed truths, to explore the depths of their own mind and soul in pursuit of what is real. Gnosticism does not view questioning as a threat but as a natural expression of the human spirit, a sign that the soul is alive and restless, ready to find truth beyond appearances and conventions. To question for the Gnostic is a sacred act, for it is through questions that the hidden layers of existence are revealed. For the Gnostic, questioning is not just an intellectual tool, it is a spiritual attitude. They question not only the external world but also their own beliefs, perceptions, and limitations. Gnosticism teaches that truth is not something to be found in rigid dogmas or ready-made answers but emerges from direct experience and knowledge that arises from the heart. With each doubt, with each uncertainty, the Gnostic draws closer to Gnosis, to the intimate understanding of the divine. This investigative spirit keeps the flame of seeking ever alive, guiding the soul through shadows toward light. The Gnostic texts, often wrapped in symbolism and metaphor, challenge the reader to think deeply, to avoid settling for the obvious. They urge the seeker to interpret, to investigate, and to discover hidden meanings that, in turn, reveal inner truths. Every line, every symbol, is a door to the unknown, an opportunity to transcend superficial knowledge and reach deeper understanding. In this sense, Gnosticism differs from conventional religious traditions. It does not offer absolute answers but instead poses questions that lead the seeker to look within and explore their consciousness. This spirit of questioning is one of the most inspiring aspects of Gnosticism and can be seen as a guide for the spiritual journey. Rather than seeking safety in given truths, the Gnostic finds freedom in the unknown, in the uncertain terrain of their own perceptions and intuitions. To question is, in itself, an act of courage, for challenging certainties can bring discomfort, but it is also an act of faith in the potential to discover a truth that resonates deeply with the soul. For Gnosticism, questioning is a tool for enlightenment, a portal that opens the way to awakening. The Gnostic sees in questioning a key that unlocks the prison of ignorance, allowing the spirit to explore the vast field of consciousness and existence. When questioning becomes a constant practice, the seeker realizes that the spiritual path is a journey of expansion and self-discovery, where each answer brings a new question, like an infinite spiral leading toward the divine. Gnosticism, therefore, teaches us not to fear doubts but to embrace them, to honor them as signs that our journey is ongoing. It encourages us to see each question as a flame illuminating our path and leading us, step by step, to our essence. This philosophy of questioning transforms spirituality into a living experience, where the seeker is not a passive follower but an active participant, an explorer navigating the depths of their own being in search of truth. According to Gnosticism, the spiritual journey is a path of discoveries but also of profound confrontations. It is a passage through the soul and its shadows, demanding courage, surrender, and resilience. In seeking Gnosis, the direct knowledge of the divine, the Gnostic inevitably faces challenges that push them to expand their consciousness and overcome inner barriers. These challenges are an essential part of spiritual growth, the silent teachers that reveal the deepest layers of being and test the integrity of the quest for truth. Among the main challenges that Gnostics face is spiritual isolation. The search for inner truth often requires stepping away from dominant beliefs and values, which can make the Gnostic feel detached from the world. By questioning materialism and the illusions that shape social reality, the Gnostic may be seen as someone walking in the opposite direction. This isolation is not only external, it is also an internal process of separating from illusions, freeing oneself from the expectations and judgments imposed by society. It is a solitude that reflects the path of the seeker, who, in stepping away from the familiar, dives into the depths of self. Another challenge is doubt, which arises as a persistent shadow on the path of Gnosis. Constant questioning, so encouraged by Gnosticism, can also become a source of insecurity. As the seeker progresses on their journey, they may be confronted with uncomfortable truths that reveal their own weaknesses, illusions, and fears. In this sense, doubt is an inevitable companion that tests the Gnostics' confidence in their perception and intuition. It is a reminder that deep knowledge is an uncertain experience, a dance between what appears to be and what truly is. Facing uncomfortable truths is perhaps the greatest challenge of the Gnostic journey. The process of self-knowledge is not only a path of light but also a descent into the shadows of being. The Gnostic confronts the aspects of self that are often easier to ignore: the ego, fear, limitations, and the illusions cultivated over time. This confrontation is necessary, for it is by integrating these shadows that the seeker breaks free from the chains of the material world. This is a process of purification, a transformative journey where the soul sheds layers of ignorance and draws closer to its divine essence. Gnosticism teaches that these challenges are not obstacles but gateways to growth and wisdom. Isolation, doubt, and confronting the truth are experiences that prepare the soul to receive Gnosis in its fullness. Each difficulty encountered on the path is an opportunity for strengthening and expanding consciousness. The Gnostic learns to embrace these difficulties as allies, understanding that by overcoming them, they become more aligned with their essence and the purpose of their journey. These challenges also underscore the importance of perseverance and humility on the spiritual path. Gnosticism reminds us that awakening is not an instant process but a continuous building, a daily commitment to seeking truth. It is a journey that demands patience and self-compassion, for the challenges that arise are not barriers to be feared but steps that lead the soul to higher levels of understanding and inner peace. Thus, the challenges of the Gnostic journey are an integral part of the path. They teach us to cultivate an inner faith, a strength not reliant on dogma but one that grows with each experience, each confrontation, and each transcendence. By facing these challenges, the Gnostic comes closer to their true essence, rises above illusions, and connects with the divine within their own being. In a modern world filled with distractions, materialism, and an endless pursuit of the superficial, Gnostic teachings re-emerge as a beacon for those yearning for something more. The depth of these texts and the spiritual vision they carry offer a perspective that resonates with the contemporary seeker, one who feels that life's meaning cannot be found solely in the visible and the tangible. Gnosticism speaks directly to the heart of those seeking the truth behind appearances, to the restless spirit longing for an experience of self-knowledge that transcends conventions and imposed beliefs. In their writings, Gnostics revealed a truth that transcends time. The spiritual journey is an individual path, a personal and unique experience of connection with the divine. In an age where quick answers and instant solutions dominate reality, Gnosticism reminds us of the importance of a patient search, a journey toward the sacred that is not determined by rigid rituals but by an inner awakening and a direct relationship with the mystery of existence. For the modern seeker, Gnostic teachings are an invitation to look within, to find the light of truth in the depths of their own being. While many philosophies and beliefs offer dogmas to follow, Gnosticism offers the freedom to explore, to question, and to experience spirituality in an intimate way. It teaches us that true wisdom is not knowledge that can be transferred or imposed but a discovery that arises from direct contact with our own heart, from the mystical experience that occurs in the silence and solitude of the spirit. In a world where spirituality often mingles with superficiality and dogmatism, Gnostic texts offer an alternative, a path of depth and authenticity where truth is lived, not merely known. The practices of meditation, introspection, and reflection proposed by Gnosticism become even more relevant in a society where time and silence are rare. For those who seek meaning, who desire to transcend the mundane and connect with something greater, Gnosticism is a doorway to true spiritual freedom. These ancient teachings are a call to rediscover our essence, to recognize the divine spark that dwells within each of us, and to live according to this truth. Gnosticism inspires us to see life as a sacred journey, where every experience is an opportunity for learning, every challenge a chance for elevation, and every moment a possibility of communion with the divine. It reminds us that salvation, in the Gnostic view, is a state of consciousness, a peace that arises when we free ourselves from the illusions of the material world and connect with what is eternal. The relevance of Gnostic teachings therefore amplifies in the modern era. They invite us to slow down, to meditate on our own existence, and to live in a way that resonates with the truth we discover within. The Gnostic Gospels, with their parables, symbols, and insights, continue to reach those who seek a free and profound spirituality. And by connecting with this tradition, we remember that the true spiritual journey is one that brings us back to our own center, where we find the light we seek and the peace we long for. If you felt this message resonated deeply within you, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel to follow more content that illuminates and inspires your spiritual journey. Together, we can build a community of seekers, a network of souls supporting one another in the quest for self-knowledge and elevation. May these teachings continue to guide you and strengthen your connection with the divine.